Welcome to Trust the Process show. It's an honor and a privilege to have you join me, Bruno, today. And, I've been following you, and you've been a huge influence in the community with not only, the CrossFit community, but more importantly, I think with the vets and actually with the PTSD and mental health. So, like I said, it's an honor, and maybe so people that don't know you, maybe just kind of take this time, Bruno, just to introduce yourself, what you're doing right now, and who you are.
Right on. Thank you, Chris, for having me. I love the title of this podcast, Trust the Process, because you absolutely, it's one of the things they tell us in the military, right? Trust the process of this, while you're feeling the pain, while you're getting cold, while you're getting tired, right? You got to trust the process that the other end is going to be something wonderful, right? A change in you and a better thing. And, it's a little bit hard to talk about yourself, on all these things, but yeah, I served for 15 years in the military, both in the Army and the Navy. One as a weapons tech for the Army and a paratrooper. And then I transferred over to the Navy to become a clearance diver. And I finished my career as counter ID over in Afghanistan. Since then, I've owned my own gym. I actually just sold it. So I'm exiting that spot. And then yeah, man. So I'm liking it. It's 5 years, and it was a great thing. We created a great community. It was time for me to move on because now, like you said, I'm an advocate and ambassador for mental health, not just post-traumatic. I started with post-traumatic stress disorder because that was my injury, but then now I'm embracing all mental health. And, and now it's turning into this mental health for high performance, right? So for people that do have to deal with that, actually makes them a little bit stronger and more organized than people that are just what we're going to call normal. So I emphasize on that, which is, really good. So, but then I went to the North Pole, team captain for Canada for the Invictus Games. Then last year I was an ambassador in Toronto. I'm going to be working with the Invictus Game in Australia in October. So that's another thing, right, for me to create that space for veterans to get back on their feet and start crushing life again. What else? I don't know, man. This is it. I'm a father, a 12-year-old son. He's pretty awesome, and a beautiful girlfriend for 4 years now, Sarah. And things are going well, man. Business is going well, and I like to hustle, and I love these podcasts, man. So very cool. Let's trust the process.
Absolutely, man. So kind of leading into that, appreciate the background on you. So, really around this and why I connect with people, Bruno, is like we've talked before, but trusting the process can mean many different things. So we focus on the military. Trusting the process could be just, like you said, you're living in pain and you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? But there's a process to why they have you do the things that you do. Now, we look outside in terms of even mental health, or we go into like business. Trusting the process can mean many things. So why I connect with people is find out, what does trust the process mean to you? How is that trusting the process got you to where you are, and where is that taking you? What is that noble goal that you are striving for each and every morning when you get up and grind to trust that process to get you there?
Right. A great question. I love it. All right. So basically, trusting the process, when you first said it to me and we were going to be on this podcast, I said, man, the first thing that came up was the military training, right? From basic training to trusting the process. It's one of the first things, right? Along with suffer in silence and, and go out there, right? And look out for your buddies. But the thing is that trusting the process was so ingrained into us. And I think that people forget about the processes that they go through in life, right? As you grow up, you go through a process of going to school, your parent teaching you values and beliefs, all these things. It's all a process. And then when you feel you face challenges through your life, there's a process that happens. Now, sometimes that process is not delineated, right? It's not like so clear in front of you. You're like, oh my God, why is this thing coming at me from all sides? We can all relate to a story like that. Either you had a breakup, you lost your job, you're like all these things happening at once, but that is a process, right? For me in the mental health industry, when I talk about that, I talk about everybody's trying so hard not to go through a breakdown, right? Doc, give me a pill, or let's do this, or let's do that. But that's a process. Every time you break down, you get a breakthrough. But we've been so much like, don't break down, man, because you might lose everything. But sometimes losing everything is what gets you to the other side. That's a process, right? So for me out there, if you want to be successful and you want to do these things, depending on where you are in your life, there is processes out there, right? So for you, you know, you went on this course, there is a process of how to evaluate someone, how to coach them, how to do these things. Trust that process until you can find what works and doesn't work for you. And then you can tweak it and do your thing. Successful people like Tony Robbins and Brandon Bouchard and Richard Branson, they all have processes. It's out there. It's been around forever. So it's about finding the ones that work for you and also having that faith, right? That it's going to work.
That's the big one. I honestly think it's that faith, right? And a big thing for me, you know, Bruno, and I'm sure for you too, but is we can only rely on, like when we go to the process while we wake up, you got to have that goal, that noble goal of like, what am I working for? And it has to be, I think, deeper than just making $1 million. You have to have something that's going to wake your ass up in the morning when, you know, I don't know about you, but I get up every morning at 4 a.m. Maybe it's coming off that military training. But when I get up at 4 a.m., every morning I wake up at 4 a.m. doesn't mean I like getting up at 4 a.m.
Nobody
you know
likes
what I mean?
up at 4
Nobody likes getting up at 4 a.m., but it's the process, right?
It's
the process that I've created. Now, it's not right or wrong. Like everyone doesn't need to wake up at 4 a.m., but it's a process that I've chosen to get everything I need to do to get done. So for you, being a man who's done very well in the military, transitioning to a successful gym, to moving to where you are now, what does your process look like for you? What does the day look like for Bruno?
Oh, I love that you're asking that, because you know what? Once again, it's about adjusting and adapting to what we want. So for you, 4 o'clock, great, awesome.
Yeah.
for me, you know what? It's 5:30, 6 o'clock when I wake up on my own, or I have the alarm. And usually I try to every day, right? Putting in your mindset, tomorrow I'm going to wake up before the alarm, and I like to play that game.
Right.
Because your brain knows that, and it's just going to wake up, right? And so I like to play these brain games. And then, but the first thing that I do is that I wake up, I have a broken back, so I need to start moving and doing these things. And now I've been doing the Wim Hof method. You've heard about that? Wim Hof, the ice
I have. So what does that look like for you then? What is
so
it?
I do my breathing exercise in the morning. So I'll sit at the table, and the first thing that I'll do actually before that is I'll fill up a page of gratitude, right? So I fill up everything that I'm grateful about, man.
I love that.
And I do it, right? It starts with, you know, Sarah, Maddox, my house, my dogs. And it goes to these things, God, whatever that looks like for you, all these things. And then I start putting in there opportunities that are showing up, money that's coming my way, you know, my health, my mind, my soul. And I just go through this gratitude, and I try to fill up the pages and just put it in there, right? Of things that I want to manifest in my life, and all these things that I'm already grateful and living in that moment for. And I started doing that again because I felt that in the morning sometimes, because of PTSD rears up its head, I would wake up a little bit depressed in the morning or something like that, right? And I wanted to face the day. And this has dramatically changed my outlook. Now I look forward to it. And it's lucky for me that it's super sunny, it shines right down into the kitchen. I sit right there into the sunlight, and I just write these things. Then I do the Wim Hof method, which is, you know, the breathing exercise about improving your O2 in and getting the CO2 out. And also the cold exposure, right? So taking cold showers and all these things. Right. And you might think, well, obviously I was a diver, so I was wet and cold forever.
Yeah.
Right. So when people say, hey, let's go jump in the ocean. No, I've done it for all the time. But,
yeah. Been there, done that. Yeah.
Been there, done that. I actually got the t-shirts and everything. So, so that's the thing, right? So now I do the cold exposure, and it's on my terms and everything. And it's going to progress into ice baths and going in the ocean and all these things. And I found that the breathing is actually really good, because we shallow breathe. We got a lot of CO2, and if we work out, we got lactic acid, we got all these things that needs to be expelled, but we're not breathing properly, right? We only use about 3/4 of our lungs, and then we should belly breathe, right? You've heard about that, right?
Yep.
So I've been doing this training with him. I bought the course and everything, and I find it super awesome. So that's my second part. Then I'll do the yoga. I'll do the stretch for my back and everything. And then after that, I'll either do 1 hour of physical fitness, usually on the elliptical, once again, because of my back. So that keeps everything smooth, no jarring, no impact. And then I'll get on with my day. So I'll face I'm writing my book, I'm working on my other businesses, I'm finding, answering emails, all these things. And then I'll go through my day like that. And then in the afternoon, I'll have a workout. I'll go lift some weights and, make sure my musculoskeletal and all that, my bones stay healthy as I grow older.
Yeah.
And then, and make sure to connect with my family, my son and my girlfriend, every single day, and making sure that they know that they are a priority. That's pretty much my day, making sure that every day, no matter how you're feeling, this is what is a primordial is, do one thing that's going to propel you closer to your goal, right? And a lot of people think the goal is, like you said, like $1 million or something like that. But that's just, if you ask another question, is why do you want $1 million? Well, because I want to buy these things. But why do you want to buy these things? And you get down to, I want to be loved, right? And I want to be valued. I want to be all these things. Then that's your why, right? That's your why. So if you have a big enough why, am I doing something today that's going to get me closer to that why, right? Totally. So I think that's an important question in the process, right? Am I doing something today?
Yeah, I think the why has to be defined, and because unless the why is defined, we don't have the vision can't be obtained if there's no why. And that why is part of that process, right? It's about when those days that are tough, and there are days, we're not going to.
No, we're not going to lie about that.
You can be a big, strong guy like you that, serve in the military. We all have fucking hard days, right?
Yeah.
So when you have those tough times, like what your challenges, what do you do? Because it's easy to say when we have the great days, that path of, okay, I get up, I do this, this, and this, and my day is great. But Bruno, when you're sitting in those moments of whatever it may be, whether it be PTSD, whether it be just today's not the day, I'm not feeling it. How do you then go back to that why and the process to get you through that?
Great question. I love it. Absolutely. Those are the important questions, right? Because everybody thinks, I don't know if you've watched the one that I did about the peaks and valleys, right? And how do we get to up there? So the thing is it's just that nobody talks about their bad days, right? Especially with social media, where we have like, look at this nice beach, look at this nice office, look at this nice car. Right? Everybody's like, oh my God. And then you look at that and you're like, man, I'm having a shitty day right now. I suck. But you don't. Right. It's just that nobody advertised their bad days, right? But the thing about a bad day is exactly that. I'm exactly like everybody else, right? Sometimes it hits me so hard that I stay in bed, but I'm going to be honest with you, right? That day is so hard. But now, like I said, because of the processes that I've implanted in my day with the Wim Hof, with the breathing, with the gratitude and all these things, I'm saying, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do my gratitude list, right? Once again, taking that small inch of work, I'm going to do my gratitude. If I don't feel like it after that, I'm going to go back to bed. Then I just like, okay, now I've done the gratitude. I actually feel pretty good about myself. I'll do the breathing, right? And then sometimes it's just about, this is my deal now with myself, is that I got to do one thing that's going to get me to my goal. So if that's one email, one phone call, or whatever that needs to be done, I'll do that. And I guarantee you that if you do that, then it turns into 2, it turns into 3, it turns into 4. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not even thinking about how bad I'm feeling. It's just this thing, right? So now knowing that, I kind of like do that. So I'll just say, okay, one email. I'll just do one email today. The most important one I'm going to send, it's probably for an event or keynote speaking or, about my book or something like that. I'll just talk about that. And then I'll just, that's it. That's all I do today. And then I can take the rest of the day for myself. But then after that, it turns into, I'm doing all this work, right? And then it gets done and then I feel good, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's just to get over that chemical imbalance or that whatever story you're telling yourself, right? Because everybody's got a story.
Man, and then that story is the biggest obstacle in anybody's way.
It is. You would never accept anybody talk to you that way, the way we talk to
you wouldn't. And if you did,
there'd be something wrong with you, right? Yeah. And then, but we talk to ourselves in such a bad way, right? And we're like, if you write it down, like when I went to Tony Robbins there, he says, like, write down what you say to yourself. It's absolutely horrible, but I didn't even want to write it down. It's like, it's like horrible, right? You're like, I'm a piece of shit. I'm fucking no good. I'm no this thing, right? We can say that on your podcast, right?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay.
You swear
right? So if we couldn't swear, we couldn't talk, but you know how
totally,
it is.
Absolutely.
So, and you write that down and it was like so shocking to see, man, I can't believe I'm talking to myself that way. And then replace that with, positive beliefs and in going forward and he calls them incantation, people calls them affirmation or something that you want to replace it with, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah, and I'll tell you what I've been doing lately. I just started this is I create an motion journal, right? So it's like when I'm feeling any type of negative emotion, I do kind of what he says is write it down. So I'm putting like I'm recognizing it. So I think as we recognize these patterns, like I don't know about you, but like when I work out, you work out, you're hungry all day long, and when I'm hungry and I'm not feeding myself, my wife will say it. She's like, "You're a fucking monster. You need to fucking eat because you're
yeah,
just,
yeah, because we just turn into beasts. Yeah,
right." So
yeah,
I look at that too in my journal. Is like, "Okay, I'm feeling down or I'm feeling off," and a lot of times you can recognize why. So it's you start to recognize why, you can start to action it so you don't go back to that. So for me, like you kind of mentioned, like with Tony Robbins, you write that shit down. It sucks, right? Because you're like, especially a guy like yourself and a guy like me, we're coaching people, we're helping people, and you're like, I can't feel like this because I'm supposed to be the one that needs to help people.
right.
But when we flip it back, it's also being vulnerable to who we are and being okay with those emotions to work
Yeah,
through them, right? And
absolutely. Yeah, nobody's got their shit together. That's the thing, right?
now
Let's
Tony
start with that.
Robbins, Tony Robbins doesn't have his shit all together. Maybe
Right? Tony
probably does it
Robbins got
pretty
a
good.
coat.
Probably does pretty good.
Right? But he's trying to be consistent, like everybody, So that's the secret, right? Be
Yeah.
consistent. But everybody's doesn't have their shit together. Everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs, right? If you want to get to the best version of yourself, right? And that's once again, what my peaks and valleys and everything is that nobody wakes up one day and reaches out this level without doing any of the work and having bad days and having failures and having people take advantage of you and doing these things, right? Why do we wake up early in the morning? So we can have our own time. Because the minute people wake up, our time is hijacked, right? It's never about us
Totally.
anymore. It's about
Yeah.
everybody else, right? Your kids, your wife, your clients, your friends. Everybody wants a piece of Chris, right? Because
Right.
Chris, the man,
Yeah.
Chris is the man. So he
Totally.
needs to pump my tires. He needs to give me his advice, and that's what we need to do, right? That's what we're there for.
Absolutely. So, kind of moving into that, we got about, just a couple minutes left here. I really want, you mentioned a few things that I'd love to hear a little bit more about, even for people listening to learn more about. I heard, you got a book coming out, and you got some speaking engagements going on. So now that the gym is being sold, what does the future look like for Bruno? And, what is that big thing that you're working towards right now that people could, learn a little bit more about for you?
Right. Right. So basically, so I got an ebook that's out. It's one of about my PTSD and the suicide bomber that I did over in Afghanistan, and it kind of gets people like to know a little bit about the struggle that we go through when we come back home and why we go through some things. And then, but now I'm writing another book. Right now the title is "I'm Not a Hero." Because a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on how military personnel, first responders, cops, firefighters, all these guys are heroes, and I think that it's a word that's thrown around for too easily. I think that
Sure.
there's we got nurses, we got teachers, we got all these people that are actually heroes that are like doing this in days in and day out. So,
Yeah.
but it's about a book about the things that I've done and going to the North Pole and Afghanistan, the military, all these things all together with Invictus, and basically try to say that it's everyday people doing extraordinary things, right? That just everybody's hero when you think about it. And then guest speaking, being involved with the Invictus Games because I believe it's a great platform to help the veterans get back on their feet. And my biggest passion actually is mental health, all of it, civilians, everybody, basically is because that is the new normal, right? My favorite quote about that is, normal is an illusion.
Right.
What's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly, right? So, and who wants to be normal anyway, right? So,
Totally.
yeah, totally. So that's my biggest passion. I would like to be able to go to organizations and help people on a daily basis. That's why I'm working on my online course now for civilians, and I had
Yep.
one for the veterans, which will be launching soon. And that's what's happening. It's about having that accessible for people that aren't ready to go out and talk to someone, or they're not too sure where to start, so that they can do it from home and get back on their feet and knowing that they're amazing, they're loved, they're worth it, And there's more than one way to, I was going to say skin a cat, but there's more than one way to help out people, right? Not everybody responds to therapy the same way. So for me, it was fitness. For you, it might be, meditation. For other people, I put all that in my basket, right? And try to see what works. So what's next is exactly that. It's just to be out there and making a difference
Awesome,
in people's
and
lives.
you know what, I'm a firm believer in this, and it sounds like what you're doing is another belief in it is that in order to get in this world, you need to give first.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you are giving so much back to not only the veteran community, but just the community in general. And it looks like it's coming back to you in spades. And that's a noble thing. I think the one thing that we get trapped up in this society, especially North America, me coming off this last week and meeting people from Asia, Africa, the North American society is very much what is in it for me, and I will do whatever it takes to get what's mine. And I think we need a level of that in terms of what is it that I want, but what can you give to the world to have them give that back to you? Because it isn't just about get. And what I'm hearing from you and seeing from you in action is just, giving back, and the world will repay you in spades once you do that. So.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, it comes from Zig Ziglar, right? And Tony Robbins is another big giver as well. But Zig Ziglar said, if you want all the things you want, make sure that everybody else gets what they want, and then you'll get what you want, right? This is how it works. And it's always been that way for me. I've been fortunate to have some very good people and to meet people like yourself that are being out there doing their thing and helping this community and helping make the world a better place. Because the one other favorite quote of mine is the world won't be destroyed by evil men, but by good men who stand there and do nothing, right?
That's fucking so true, man. That's a great quote. So well, look, Bruno, I appreciate you joining me today, man. It is honestly a pleasure and an honor to speak with you, and I'm excited to see what's coming up next for you, and hearing from your books and courses, and just the next time you go dancing with Tony Robbins on the stage. So
Magic Mike called me up. They want me to come to Vegas. No, absolutely not. It's all good, Chris. Thank you so much, man. It was an honor being on your podcast. I love it. Trust the process. And I think that it's going to make some big difference. And you know what? Let's touch back again in 6 months, a year, man. Find out where we are all at, and then do a follow up on these things.
Beautiful. That sounds great. Thanks, Bruno.
Thank you, buddy.
All right.